Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Hello listeners and welcome back to Stomp This Way. Today we are back to King Kong, where we've jumped a decade ahead. We're now in the 70s. We went from the 30s to the 60s to the 70s. Quite a bit of jumping around with King Kong. But no, we're here to talk about Dino De Laurentiis' King Kong.
Ooh.
So, had you seen this movie before?
No.
You had not seen this movie before.
I didn't even know this movie existed until about a couple years ago.
Really? See, that's kind of strange because I don't know, I always got the feeling maybe it was just because Dad liked this movie when we were younger, but I got the feeling that, like I said last episode, people our parents' age, like when they think of King Kong, this is the Kong they think of because it was just the one that came out when they were younger. And it was a moderate success at the box office. It might be actually the first giant monster movie I ever saw because, like I said, when we were young, Dad, we watched this on TV, and then when we had the DVD, like, you know, really early on when the DVDs were first starting to come out. So yeah, I had seen this when I was younger. I watched this movie quite a bit. I guess it hasn't been that long since I've seen it. It's been a couple years maybe, but yeah. So I was excited to come back and talk about it with all of our listeners.
Andrew, what do you think?
You've seen this movie several times, right, Andrew?
Oh yeah, I've seen this quite a few times.
Yeah. Like, this is one of those movies that I can't remember the first time I saw it. It was that long ago.
That's fair.
But anyway.
Lots of production trivia.
Quite a bit of production trivia. It was quite the infamous production, I guess. There are two accounts on how this film came about into being. ABC executive Michael Eisner said that he came up with the idea and pitched it to Paramount, who then enlisted the help of Dino De Laurentiis. Dino De Laurentiis claims that he came up with the idea after seeing a poster for Kong in his daughter's room or something, and was like, why don't we remake it? And then he took it to Paramount. So, you know, nobody really knows the truth, I guess. But Paramount agreed to pay half of the film's budget in exchange for distribution rights. And so Dino De Laurentiis, he went to whatever was left of RKO at the time. I think
they were owned by General Tire.
Yeah, RKO General, and he paid them $200,000 plus, I think it was 3% of the film's final gross in order to, you know, get the rights to the movie. So it was Dino who wanted the film to be set in present day and the climax to take place on the World Trade Center, and then he let the writer just do whatever from there. Meryl Streep said that she was considered for the role of Dwan, not Don, but Dwan, because it's more interesting that way. But Laurentiis apparently didn't think she was attractive enough. But they apparently did offer the role to Barbra Streisand, but she turned it down. Personally, I don't think Barbara is much of an improvement over Meryl, but what do I know? Let's see. So De Laurentiis' first pick to direct the movie was Roman Polanski, but he turned it down as well. So Rick Baker is said to have been extremely disappointed in the final suit, and he gave cinematographer Richard H. Klein all the credit for making it look passable. Let's see. Jessica Lange had to spend hours on a rubber raft in the freezing cold, drenching wet, while filming the scene where she is found on the raft.
She's wearing a pretty skimpy bathing suit.
Yeah, that was filmed in the middle of January, which, I mean, January in L.A. is not like January here. But still, pretty cold. 5 different masks were created by Carlo Rambaldi for various emotions that Kong displays. A 40-foot, 6.5-ton mechanical Kong was constructed at a cost of £500,000, but it proved to be impossible to operate and make it look realistic, so it appears in less than 15 seconds of the final film.
Could you say it's a mechanic?
Not near as cool. But yes.
Sorry.
The War for Kong is taken from The Lost World.
Which version?
The 1960 version, I believe. Which, I always associate this war, which is reused all the time and lots of stuff, with this movie, but I guess it predates this movie, so there you go. After its theatrical run, NBC paid De Laurentiis $19.5 million, the most ever that a television studio had paid for a film at the time, to air the movie 2 times over 5 years. And for that cut, 45 minutes of footage was added to bring it to a 3-hour runtime. They also edited out the more violent and the more sexual scenes. So I'm guessing they just edited one out of the movie. Just kidding. But let's see. Nominated for 3 Academy Awards, it shared the win with Logan's Run that year. Apparently, those were the only 2 films that got nominated.
For visual effects?
For visual effects. It was also nominated for Best Cinematography and Best Sound. And then finally, there was a legal battle between Universal and De Laurentiis' company. I didn't understand all the details. There was a bunch of legal mumbo-jumbo. But anyway, essentially, they did a lot of suing back and forth. And because Universal claimed that they had been in negotiations with RKO General at the same time that Laurentiis had. And I think they claimed there was some kind of verbal agreement that RKO said there never was, and blah, 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 blah. And so when it was all said and done, both sides agreed to withdraw their lawsuits, and Universal canceled the film they were working on, and they said that they would, on the condition that they would pursue their version of the film 18 months after De Laurentiis' film was released, which obviously did not come 18 months later. In 1978, so this was all occurring, in 1975 or so when this movie was being made. In 1978, a judge ruled that the novelization that Universal was basing their film off of was public domain, so that gave Universal the rights to make the movie whenever they wanted, apparently. Although they did not get around to making a movie about Kong until 2005 when they, came out with that Peter Jackson monstrosity. So
how dare you?
Oh, and then one thing I did not mention in my trivia, but I do think it's kind of interesting. To my knowledge, in 1976, this was the most expensive movie ever made. So there you go.
Also, not mentioned, this is Jessica Lange's first major role.
It is.
In a motion picture. Introducing Jessica Lange.
But Dylan, you want to tell them what happened at the box office?
Sure. So this movie was released December 17th of 1976, so a nice little Christmas Kong.
Yeah, Christmas Kong.
Double K. Has a budget reported of $24 million at the time, so pretty hefty.
Yeah, Star Wars came out a year later, and it only cost $11 million.
This is true.
And let's see, what was
2001 came out in 1968. It also cost about between $10 and $11 million,
something like that. So yeah, Alien came out in '79, cost I think $11 million. So
pretty expensive movie here in 1976.
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie had a domestic opening of $7 million, a total domestic gross of $52.6 million, a total worldwide gross of $90.6 million, and it was the 4th highest grossing film globally in 1976.
So they made their money back.
So, they made some money.
Yeah, they made a little bit of money.
It's the year my mom was born.
Aw, how sweet.
In April.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. You'd think that they would have made money on this thing and pumped a sequel out, but I think, probably one, it was kind of a troubled production,
it was long.
What?
And the movie's kind of long.
Yeah, it was kind of a troubled production. I think, the director and the Laurentiis family got into some heated shouting matches, and, they had the big issue with the mechanical thing. But I think probably the main reason that they didn't get a fast-track sequel, we did get a sequel in 1987, but I think probably the legal issue is probably they didn't want to go through another round of lawsuits, so, But anyway,
I say long. It's not that long. We've definitely watched longer, we're gonna watch
a longer Kong movie here in a couple of weeks. But anyway, we're gonna listen to the trailer, and then we'll come back, read off the cast and crew, read the plot summary, and we'll discuss King Kong, the 1976 version. See you in a bit.
It is 1976. The American merchant vessel Petrox Explorer has just set sail from the port of Surabaya in search of oil. What they find will shock the world.
We may be sailing into the history books. She's alive!
You know, maybe my luck has changed.
They will discover an uncharted island that is the home of the most incredible creature on the face of the earth. A creature called Kong. Dino De Laurentiis presents the most exciting original motion picture event of all time. King Kong. King Kong, a fantastic adventure. Open the gate! King Kong. King Kong, unlike anything you've ever experienced before. With Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, and introducing Jessica Lange as the beauty who charmed the beast. And starring the eighth wonder of the world, King Kong.
All right, we're back. This film is directed by John Guillermin, something like that. Sorry, a guy. There's lots of Italians making this movie because Laurentiis is obviously Italian or French, one or the other. Maybe it was French. Written by Lorenzo Simple Jr. Music by John Barry. That guy's from America. Effects by Rick Baker and Carlo Ramboldi. And starring Jeff Bridges, Jeff Bridges, Charles Grodin, introducing Jessica Lange, and Rick Baker as Kong. Dylan, what is the plot?
Okay. When a satellite captures images of an island in the South Pacific shrouded in fog, Petrox executive Fred Wilson puts a team together and embarks on a journey, hoping to find the largest oil deposit in history. Stowing away on this ship is Jack Prescott, a primatologist hoping to find a large gorilla rumored to live on the island. On the journey, the ship comes across a life raft carrying a model named Dwan, D-W-A-N, because it's more interesting that way, whose ship sank, leaving her the only survivor. The ship makes it to Skull Island and finds natives performing a ritual to give away a young woman to their god, Kong. Later that night, the natives kidnap Dwan off the ship and give her to Kong. Jack and the other members of the expedition chase the ape through the forest, but Kong turns on them and most of them are killed. Jack eventually catches up to Dwan and brings her back to the wall while Kong fights a giant snake. Fred has a pit filled with chloroform dug, and Kong falls into it. They bring Kong back to New York, where the giant ape escapes from his cage and wreaks havoc. Eventually, he finds and takes Dwan and proceeds to climb the World Trade Center towers. Helicopters gun him down and he falls back to the street, and in the final scene, Jack walks away from a distressed Dwan as credits roll.
Ooh.
Helicopters?
Are we Tyler Perry now?
Helicopters.
Helicopters.
A helicopter. Heli. A helicopter.
Heli. Anyway.
Ali!
Well, when this movie starts out, we start out at the harbor, kind of like the original movie, at the harbor. There's this big converted oil tanker thing that's getting ready to set sail. And
it's a big boat.
It's a big boat. I think we get some exposition about something. And we meet Jeff Bridges' character, whose name is Jack Prescott. Jack is, of course, the name of the guy in the original Kong movie too. His last name was not Prescott, but it was Jack Driscoll or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But anyway, and he pretends to be drunk and drops some cash, and the security guard lets him by, and so he all spy like hops on the anchor rope or the deck rope and crawls across and gets on board. I do wonder where I guess we see him. He stows away on the lifeboat later or something. I wonder how he gets food and stuff, but whatever. But meanwhile, yeah, we learn that they're gonna go. Well, I guess we don't learn immediately, but they get on the sail. They set sail. We learn that they're gonna go to Skull Island because there's an NSA satellite. Got pictures of it, and Fred Wilson makes donations to the president or something. And
anyway, they have some sort of like satellite imaging saying, that there's like a large CO2 signature coming off the island and large heat signatures coming off the island. So they assume it to be a large oil deposit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, of course, this movie is very, I guess in the 70s, oil was a very topical thing. There was the energy crisis and
large gas shortages.
Yeah, all that stuff. And, of course, oil company equals evil. But and Fred Wilson is your very prototypical, oil exec or big corporate executive. He's a jerk and very money hungry and
big douche.
Very confident in himself. And playing his usual hippie character, we have Jeff Bridges, who is, I guess he's a primatologist from USC or something. What do they say?
No,
from Princeton.
He's from Princeton.
From Princeton. And
Fred doesn't believe him.
No.
No, he does not.
Yeah, I do wonder, how did he, I don't know, does he really believe there's a giant ape on this island or whatever? But I don't know, he tells stories about how, because, Fred says the island's uninhabited and he's like,
that's not true.
There's a story from the 1600s or something where someone's ship blew off course and he saw something.
Described the shroud of something.
Their white veil that he pierced or something. And there was another account of a
skull.
Giant humanoid something and
some other something or the other where some guy's boat was found half sunk and had some words written in it on blood that described essentially Kong or something like that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but Fred thinks he's a corporate spy, so
from some rival oil company that's also
Exxon or Shell. I think he says those a lot.
Yeah.
Exxon or Shell. And anyway, so he has him locked in a room. But then his background checks out, and
he's good.
But meanwhile, they come across a life raft,
and Jack spots it.
Yeah, and it is weird. I find it kind of weird how Dwan is introduced into this movie. Dwan. It's almost like fantastical. Like she's just happens to be on this life raft that this ship just happens to come across.
Okay, they're in the South what?
The South Pacific.
South Pacific, right?
Wide open ocean.
Wide open ocean. What are the odds that they come across a young supermodel in a very skimpy bathing suit lying in a single person life raft, barely big enough for her to lay in?
Yeah.
Makeup still perfectly intact.
Yeah.
From a yacht that has recently crashed.
Yeah.
And they just came across it.
What do you think about Jessica Lange and her premiere performance?
I mean, she's not bad.
No.
She's not great.
I will say, especially early on.
She was definitely pretty.
She's very pretty. I don't know. I don't think it's her fault. I think the only direction she was given was bisexual. Because literally every line she reads... she literally, I'm saying literally every scene she's in, she throws her head back, closes her eyes, opens her mouth a little bit, whispers the words, shows off her neck, has her cleavage showing, moans a little bit, maybe whimpers some. I'm not kidding. This is literally almost every line. Which, again, she was... Jack. She flirts with every man on this boat, they give her their clothes, and she makes cut off jeans out of them.
Yeah,
and,
she takes some dude's jeans and a crop top. She never wears a bra throughout this entire movie.
Yeah, overrated. So I don't blame. And she was first feature film. I don't totally blame. I think she gets better once. I actually think she gets better once she gets caught by Kong. Yeah. But I don't know. She did kind of grate on my nerves a little bit at first. And I don't know, her background, just her character is kind of, it just, like I said, it's kind of odd that she just comes up out of nowhere. I think
she mentions that she had met somebody, where was it, in Singapore,
Singapore, yeah.
I think
Or
she
were
has-
they were going to Singapore.
they came from Singapore.
Oh, they came to okay.
Yeah, I
whatever.
think is what, because she said, "Are we going back to Singapore in the movie?"
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know if maybe she met someone in Singapore. Anyway, she met some sort of filmmaker somewhere.
Yeah.
And he asked her to be in his movie.
Yeah.
And apparently a movie saved her life. She mentions it here in a little bit, that they were watching some movie that she wanted no part in seeing.
Yeah.
So
I think
I don't know what kind of movie that is.
I think we're led to. I mean, it's totally implied, never said outright, and she might not even be aware of it. But I think she was hired on to be in a porno because, like they said, they were viewing a movie she refused to watch downstairs or in the galley or whatever. Again, that's totally implied. I don't think that's ever said outright, but doesn't really matter. Point is she's going on this little adventure with them, and Jack has been hired as the official photographer, I guess. So
He's kind of smitten with her.
he is.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. It's about 30, 40 minutes into the movie when we make it to the island, right?
Yeah, about 30 to 40 minutes or so, roundabout there.
And, they get there, they get through the fog, and they do their little first landing expedition, and
Come across the natives.
and they're
They
doing
are performing their ritual.
Yeah, they're going to
It's
get...
very similar to what we see in the original King Kong.
Maybe a little racism.
One guy's wearing an
ape suit.
ape suit. Yeah.
Doing some very...
lots of
Lots of pelvic thrusting. And they notice, of course, the oil people, and they are like,
we trade. They don't say that.
I will say,
It doesn't sound like they're speaking gibberish, at least.
one improvement over the original movie, one of very few. They don't have Jeff Bridges magically know this native language. He's totally guessing
He's
at what
just
they're saying.
inferring based on their actions and what
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah.
And kind of how they're acting. But it doesn't sound like they're speaking complete and total gibberish in this film either.
Assuming that this made-up language that they're speaking actually kind of sounds
Like a language.
like a language. But yeah, they do
Anyway,
the
so
same thing.
he essentially assumes, they spot Jessica Lange and they're like, ooh, pretty.
Yeah, and
They're
they
like, we want her.
they offer
We
six
give
of
you
their
6 women.
and they turn it down. And when they start to charge them, they shoot their guns in the air, and then they return to the big boat. And so that night, Jack, whatever.
Jack, he's going to leave.
He's gonna leave.
Yeah.
But
Because he thinks that they're going to kill Kong.
first, he's gonna have sex with Jessica Lange.
But she wants him.
Yeah, she does.
She
But-
mentions it.
But he walks.
She's like, there's nothing to do on this boat.
Yeah. But while
Except me.
she literally says that.
Look, basically.
No, I think she says, doesn't? Yeah, he says.
He's like, there's nothing to do on this boat. She's like,
No, he says it.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
there's nothing.
except
He's like, except me. But no, he goes off to the galley to steal some food, and then she's sitting there on the little.
and they're supposed to meet back up in her cabin.
Yeah, but she's sitting there on the little dock thing, and she gets nabbed. Very fluid motion. They just roll up, grab
Stealthy.
her, and go.
Parkour.
But I guess she rips off one of their necklaces, like in the original, and Jack finds it. So him and the crew of the ship
Him and the boys.
they go up to the island, and they scare off the natives with some flares and
Guns.
Oh, well, first of all, I guess we should say Jessica Lange gets taken back.
She gets drugged.
She gets drugged. She gets some more of that man gyrating in her face.
She gets an outfit change.
Yeah.
I don't know who changed her, but that's okay.
I think the women of the tribe did.
Maybe.
And she gets tied up to a little sacrificial thing, just like in the original.
Just like in the original.
And Kong, 54 minutes into the movie, Kong makes his grand appearance. Rick Baker.
I don't know that we've mentioned this movie, including the credits, if you call them credits.
It's not much of credits.
Not
in
much
this
of
movie.
credits.
Yeah.
Is 2 hours and 14 minutes, almost 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's a long movie.
It's fairly long. It's what is it, 35?
The first one is like right at 100 minutes.
Yeah, so we're
About 35 minutes.
about 35 minutes
longer than the original. So
and if you we mentioned the first one, I think we first meet Kong at around the 40 minute mark in
yeah,
that one. So
right about.
we're pushing it back almost 15 minutes here.
But he rolls up and he roars.
Comes out of the bushes like we mentioned in Mighty Joe Young.
Yeah,
out of the trees.
She her first scream. She doesn't scream as much as
Not as much as Fay Ray.
No, she doesn't.
but she does scream, and he picks her up and walks off. But anyway, so Jack and the boys roll up. They come in, they scare off the natives, they open the gate, and so Jack and some of the guys are gonna go chase the monkey, and
It plays out kind of similarly to the original.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a little bit longer, I feel like.
we cut to the next morning, and we have Dwan, she wakes up and there's a giant ape looking at her with this weird grin on his face. And, those are actually Rick Baker's eyes that you see. He just has contact lenses in, which
Kinda
I'm sure
creepy.
those were not comfortable in 1976.
No.
But yeah, and, she starts to run, but he blocks her way, and then he picks her up, and she kind of throws a fit, and she, her emotions are all over the place. At first, she's terrified, and then she gets mad and starts beating him on the nose, and then she's, really sorry about
She's
it.
like, I'm sorry, Mr. Monkey.
Yeah.
You're a nice monkey. Don't eat me.
And then he puts her down, and she runs off, and then he gets really pissed, and he chases after her, and
then she gets all
down.
muddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He picks her up, and he's a nice monkey. He's a caring monkey.
Yeah.
He takes her to the waterfall so she can clean up.
Yeah, he drops her in the waterfall.
No. She dives. Very graceful.
Yeah, he holds her under the waterfall, and then she dives off, and
Very graceful.
gets all wet, and he pulls her back up, and then he air dries her.
Okay, that's probably some bad monkey breath.
I know that she acted like she was really enjoying it. But
She's
I was
like,
that breath has to be awful.
She's literally sitting there like that. She's like,
yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Jack and the boys.
Jack and the boys plays out very similarly to the original.
Yeah.
They encounter the log
Yeah.
of death.
And Kong comes up and twists it and turns it, and everyone but Jack and I think his name was Bo
Yeah.
or something die. Bo
They
goes
fall
back.
into a river.
Yeah. Bo goes back to tell the other what happened while Jack goes on. We must go on. Anyway. And
Yeah.
and then so
Kong does some playing around with
at one point Kong, just like in the original, he tries to rip her clothes off. I'm pretty sure you see a half-second flash of nipple.
It's a PG-rated movie in 1976,
Yeah.
by the way.
Well, yeah, it is. Have you seen Howard the Duck? You can get away with a lot at a PG-13 rating.
Well, there's no PG-13 at this time.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
PG
have you seen
rating.
Titanic? It came out in 97, and it's got the extended scene of nudity.
Yeah.
So,
Well, anyway.
yeah,
Long story short.
I mean, she's not wearing much to begin with anyway, so it's not like it's hard.
Yeah.
But
He gets handsy with her, but
Jack shows up at just the right time.
yeah, well, we see they walk past these two rocks
And the moon.
and the moon.
And it looks very similar to something that we'll see here in a little while.
Yeah.
But
What could it be? Foreshadowing?
yeah, Jack comes up and grabs Dwan while Kong fights a giant snake. The only creature that he fights on the island.
No T-Rex fight.
No
In
T-Rex,
this film.
no Stegosaurus, no pterodactyl, no sea serpent. Well, there is a serpent, but not the sea serpent thing. I will say that we spend about an hour
Close
on
to
this
an hour on the
island.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the hour 30-ish, hour 40 mark before we leave.
And one of the things that made that original movie so entertaining while they were on the island, you had all these different dinosaurs and monsters that were there. First, the dinosaurs were chasing the humans, and then they were being chased by Kong, and then Kong was fighting the dinosaurs. This movie, I read it was both for, Laurentiis said he didn't want stop motion in his movie, and they'd probably had to done the dinosaur stop motion because he thought it would camp it up. Also, mainly for budgetary reasons. They didn't have a lot of other creatures. They wanted to focus on Kong, mostly budgetary reasons. And so I think this movie really suffers this.
Yeah,
because-
it's a little slow, and the pacing of this I guess what you call it, the second act of the film is a little slow in plotting at times. It's not as well paced as the original, mostly because we're not having these different encounters with dinosaurs or people getting being in peril versus Jessica Lange and Kong
having their little
flirting.
yeah. That's what you want.
She likes this monkey.
Yeah.
Yes, she
Well,
does.
she has a very love-hate relationship with this monkey. At
Yeah.
times she's like, "Oh God, no!" And then she's like, "Pick me up, Kong." But anyway.
Yeah, but it plays out a little bit longer. Extended sequences of people just walking through the jungle.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Did you set those seismic charges?
Oh.
We do have a bit where, they found some oil, like puddled up, or some petroleum or whatever you want to, some thick black substance puddled up around the natives' village, and they went and tested it, and they figure out that it needs to cook for about 10,000 more years before it's ready to be put into vehicles, processed and refined and put into vehicles. So Fred's big find has gone bust after he already told his bosses that he had found the biggest oil reserve ever. So his backup plan is, we're gonna bring back King Kong.
You found a big find.
He had a big find. It just wasn't the one they were expecting.
Anyway, so I guess they get back out to the wall. They've set up this elaborate trap to distract Kong and then make him trip over this wire and fall into this pit that they've dug extremely quickly.
Well, we forgot to mention, though, that Kong still keeps his signature move with that snake. He takes it by the jaws and just rips it open. But yeah, he falls. There's some chloroform involved, and he goes to sleep. And
not really much of a rampage through the village like in the original, which is kind of missing here.
I know. I love that scene in the original
where
he
just rampages just tossing people around.
I think I said in the original that might have been my favorite scene, where he was rampaging through, eating people, stomping on people, and like getting spears thrown at him.
That scene.
But one new addition to this film, besides the fact that Dwan actually kind of develops a liking of Kong, that's one big new addition.
We actually get to see the journey back.
We see a 12-minute sequence
of
the journey back, and they put him in this giant cargo hold. And, it's just, they kind of set up that, Fred is talking about, we're going to turn this into a big...
Yeah, when we first get back on the boat...
Stage play production.
Turn it into a big production, and a Beauty and the Beast type thing, and... Jessica Lange's Dwan is going to become famous.
And you can tell that Jack's very
not pleased
apprehensive about it. And Dwan's like, what do you think, Jack? And they get into an argument over it.
Dwan's like, well, I don't know. We shouldn't do that. And Fred's like, quit playing with that girl's mind.
I can tear up your contract right now. But
he didn't say anything.
Yeah, so he kind of wants the money. Greed's going to get into him. But
anyway... He mentioned something, or anyway, so I guess Jack and Dwan are standing here, and he says something really odd. I think the monkey had the right idea.
Yeah, because when she was talking about feeling bad for the monkey, Fred was like, he tried to rape you. What's wrong with you? And she was like, no, he was just trying to protect me. Maybe she's got a bit of what do you call it when you start Stockholm syndrome, where you start to like your captor. Yeah.
Anyway. But, Jack's over here after Fred's walked up. He's like, I think the monkey had the right idea.
Yeah.
So they start making out, and they proceed to end up in her room.
Yeah.
Well, about this time, Kong's getting a little pissy because he got a whiff of her scarf.
Yeah. And so he starts beating on the walls, and they're going to flood the cage and kill
him.
But she goes up there, and... She sits on the bars on top of the hole
and starts talking to Kane.
And but then he jumps up, and then when he lands, it shakes, and she falls in, and he catches her, and he's like, looks at her all sad like, and he puts her down, and then she runs back up the ladder, and it's kind of sad.
Anyway, now we're back in New York.
And this time, instead of on a Broadway stage, we're gonna have this big
on the banks of the East River or something?
Yeah, like this 4th of July party parade thing, and fireworks, and
Kong
comes out, and he's in this little...
Anyway, about what time did we get back to New York? We're about
almost exactly 90 minutes that we get back to New York.
90 minutes?
An hour 30.
It's not an hour 30 when we first get back to New York, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's almost exactly an hour 30 when we get back to New York. So we still got about 45 minutes of the movie left. Unlike the original, I think we said in the original, it was
by the time they actually get back to New York, there's 20, 25 minutes left in the movie.
15 or 20, it wasn't that long. But yeah, so we get to New York. We're going to have this big thing. Kong comes out in this giant cage.
They have a bunch of people dressed up as natives.
Yeah, well, I think they had 2 people dressed up as natives.
And they tie her up.
But this time her robes are made of sparkly, glittery, whatever you call those.
Yeah. Anyway, so Kong rolls out, and of course when Kong rolls out, all the paparazzi, they start rolling up, start taking pictures, and they start shoving her around. Well, Kong is not a happy boy.
Yeah, and so
he breaks free.
Well, we should say Jack has decided not to partake, and they have a fight in the dressing room prior, but he stays around to watch, I guess. And he breaks free, and everyone runs, and he's looking for Dwan. He stomps on some people. He kills Fred, stomps on Fred.
Oh, he smushes Fred.
Fred good. At one point, he picks up a woman. It's not Dwan, so he just kind of tosses her aside. I think he did that in the original too.
Yeah.
He gets a train like in the original. He rips the roof off of it this time. I think that's when he grabs the woman and tosses
her. Dwan and Jack end up in a bar.
Yeah.
She wants a drink.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting here chilling. It's the nice offer you made me still faithful.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just an associate professor. What can I give you?
Yeah. And we'll talk about the very end scene when we get there. I don't know. I feel like some of this is kind of left up to the imagination. I don't know if he was hesitant about turning down that contract. I don't know if it was really because he was money hungry or if he just wanted to make good money to be with her because he thought he had to. But anyway, yeah, instead of, being the smart people and just getting the hell out of Dodge, they go into a hotel, a fancy bar or whatever, and he's like, he sees the Twin Towers and he's like, I've seen that view before. Oh.
Oh, yeah, it's those two rocks from earlier.
And he calls up the mayor or something. And he's like, Kong is going to go to the Twin Towers. And they're like...
But you can't hurt him.
And they're like...
Deal.
Okay, where is he going? And so they, just set a trap for him. And
anyway,
but beforehand...
Where'd Jack go?
Well, he was at the phone booth. He's at the phone booth while she's sitting in the lobby waiting.
She gets taken.
And Kong comes up. He's very sneaky.
Yeah.
Quietly opens the door, grabs her, and he runs off.
He runs off with her.
And yeah, he proceeds to climb the towers.
So we've got to the World Trade Center.
Yeah. They were pretty new at the time. I think they were only a couple years having been totally completed.
Very pretty towers.
And, so...
He proceeds to climb one.
Yeah.
And he gets up to the top, and they show up, and they start shooting fire at him.
Yeah, they get flamethrowers up there.
Yeah, and they start shooting fire at him, and catches back on fire a little bit, and so he jumps to the other tower.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he throws something at him and kills him. And Jack is like, yeah, kill those lying bastards or something. I was
something like that.
Whoa.
Like, chill, bro.
But then they bring out the Apaches.
Oh, yeah,
they got miniguns.
They got some Gatling guns mounted on those suckers. And, it is kind of a moving scene because, Dwan is sitting there begging him to pick her up.
Kong, as soon as he sees him and he realizes what's going to happen, I guess he's a smart monkey.
Yeah.
He puts her down. She's like, no, Kong, you can't put me down. Pick me back up, Kong. They're going to kill you.
And I think she actually, I've had problems with her throughout the movie. I think she actually sells this pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's, you can see the pain in her face as Kong is getting riddled with bullets. And he eventually, he knocks one of them down, one of the choppers down. Which my question with all these movies, monster movies with jets and helicopters, why do they feel like they have to fly so close? They can fly just out of range, but whatever. He knocks one down and makes a cool explosion. But yeah, he collapses. He gives her one last mournful look, and then he
falls.
He kind of just rolls off the building. He's like, I'm out. And
no splat.
Now, I said in the first movie I don't think he'd be in one piece when he fell off the Empire State Building. I definitely don't think he'd be in one piece when he fell off the...
Yeah, at the time the buildings were still standing, they were I believe that they were the tallest buildings in New York City.
Yeah, they were the tallest buildings in the world. They were
at one point, yeah.
Yeah, they were 2,700 feet tall or something ridiculous.
They were 1776.
17.
They did that on purpose.
They did, those bastards. Anyway, so they're almost 1,800 feet tall. I think he would just be a mass of blood and goop. But
anyway, so he smacks the ground and Dwan gets back down to the ground very fast.
That elevator must have hauled ass.
Anyway, she gets down to the ground and we could feel his heart beating, or you can hear his heart beating.
Yeah, like the deaf girl in Godzilla vs. Kong, you can feel the heartbeat.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can hear it slowing down, and old Dwan's there, and she's kind of rubbing his head and talking to him, and he just slowly drifts off, and he dies. And the paparazzi roll in, they're like, oh, start taking pictures, and Jack's like,
and Jack's, yeah, this final scene,
I don't get it.
I think what they were going for, I think that we're supposed to believe that Jack thinks
that it's her fault.
It's her, in a roundabout way, it's her fault because she wanted this life of fame and fortune. I think the way it plays out is kind of muddy. I think
it's not kind of. It's really muddy.
Really muddy.
To me, it seems like if the watching the film, it's obviously Fred's fault. They
Yeah.
would never have taken the monkey had Fred not been like,
Yeah.
we've got to take the monkey.
Yeah.
Where it gets muddy is like, to him, I guess, in his mind, when she didn't leave with him
Yeah.
and the show went on,
Yeah.
that caused the monkey to break out, and now
Yeah.
we have this, and this very interesting creature that should never have been taken from its home
Yeah.
is now dead in the
Dead.
middle of a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And it's her fault because she didn't leave with him.
I think for this scene to, because we never I didn't feel like we ever got a sense that she really truly wanted this to happen. Fred basically threatened her, if you walk away from this, you'll never be in any production ever again. I feel like we needed at least one scene, maybe two, where we got the impression that she kind of wanted to go through with this.
Like, oh yes, I want to have this,
Where she,
this show.
yeah, just a scene where she kind of like tries to talk Jack into it, like, it'll be fun, we'll make lots of money, or, I don't feel like we ever really got that scene.
No, it's kind of forced upon her. Like
Yeah.
you said. Like
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you can do it, or you can leave with him, but if you leave with him,
Yeah.
you'll never be famous.
Yeah. So, it's kind of muddy here at the end. I really like the concept. I think it's a really interesting twist.
Like, had you had those extra scenes that you were talking about,
maybe in that 3-hour TV cut, maybe it's there somewhere.
I feel like, had we had those added scenes like you're talking about, the ending would have played out much better. It would have been like, oh, okay, he resents her for this.
Yeah.
Now the monkey's dead.
Yeah.
It's kind of your fault because, you wanted this too.
Yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. Credits roll. And
That's it.
That's it.
That's
That's
the
the
end.
movie. All 2 hours and 14 minutes of it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Dylan, I mean, it's your first time watching it. What were your initial thoughts?
I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's quite as good as the original. I think it's got some
Not
pace.
quite. It doesn't hold a candle to the original.
Nah.
It's not. It's much better than King Kong Escapes, in my opinion.
Maybe.
I'd rather watch
Yeah.
this than King Kong Escapes any day.
Okay.
Not all of us can be in love with a Shiro Honda and Toho Productions.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's definitely got some pacing issues being this long. It's got some story issues that, that they try to set things up that do pay off and try to set other things up that don't pay off. And then they have this ending that's kind of, like you said, a good term for it is muddy. It's, there's not really a whole lot of motivation for why he just kind of walks away from her after being smitten with her for this entire movie. So, overall, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think the performances are all right. Jessica Lange, she's decent in her first big role.
You just give her a pass because she's hot.
She's pretty in this movie. I mean, not so much now.
Yeah.
Lots of plastic surgery and Botox later, and many years.
Many years and cigarettes and probably liquor.
But I like Jeff Bridges in this movie. I like Jeff Bridges, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll say this. I do think it has pacing problems. I think, we always talk about, we want to see the return journey. Well, I think that 12-minute return journey probably could have been excised from this movie because the big argument that they set up, they have it again in the dressing room later. You could have probably cut out a lot of
because that's the whole point of this return journey is just for
Yeah.
them to have that argument.
Yeah.
The moral argument,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
I just want to see how, my thing is like with the return journey, I want to see
Yeah.
how'd they knock out the monkey, how'd they get him on the boat.
Yeah.
And, clearly, obviously they go back on the boat.
Well, I still don't know how they got him on the boat.
That's what I'm saying. I want to know how they got him on the boat. That's the part of the return journey. That's the quote-unquote return journey. I want to see how they got him on the boat, and then how they got him off the boat, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, we got to the harbor. Let's get this big booger off the boat.
Yeah. But
I can infer that they obviously
yeah.
sailed the boat back.
I do think it has, like we said, pacing issues. I think that, because of the lack of other creatures on the island, I think the
It
island
drags a little.
drags a little bit. I think we have a few too many scenes of, humans just, arguing about stuff. I think you could have probably cut out a good half hour of this movie and not missed much. I can't imagine what 45 minutes they added back in for the TV edit. But, yeah, I like the fact that they brought it into the modern era.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting retell. I'm glad they just didn't do what Peter Jackson did and straight up retell it.
We've switched some
1933.
things around. Yeah, we got, this whole oil subplot kind of thing going on.
Oil, World Trade Centers, helicopters instead of biplanes. We've updated it.
Yeah. I think that this movie shot pretty well.
I was going to say, I think...
It's got a nice scope and scale to it.
I think that Rick Baker was right. I think the cinematographer deserves a lot of credit because we'll see in King Kong Lives. He's right. If you don't have a skilled cinematographer behind the camera, those suits can kind of look cheap. Mm-hmm. But no, it's a decent remake.
Yeah.
You want to move on to creature design?
Sure.
Well, we got King Kong.
Yes.
What do you think about the suit, Dylan?
I think it looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Not as good as Rick Baker's suit would look, about 20 or so years later, and
22 years later,
and Mighty Joe Young, but pretty good. I mean, he's a biped giant gorilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I mean, obviously, it's not anatomically correct.
No.
He stands straight up like a man for the whole movie, but I think that the mask. The mask.
Yeah, it's got good facial expressions.
A lot of really good facial expressions, and I think
very creepy smile.
Yeah, I think Rick
creepy
Baker,
smile.
his performance with his eyes and everything is really good.
Yeah.
I think his body language for other than standing upright, I think he does a good job embodying King Kong. I don't have a problem with the suit at all, really. The only other creature we have is the snake. Mm-hmm. It kind of looks like a giant rubber snake. I mean, whatever.
Kong looks like just a giant cobra toy you would find.
Yeah, Kong has a rubber snake toy. I think that's really it as far as creatures go, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about the giant 40-foot tall replica they built.
That kind of rolls into effects a little bit.
Rolling into effects, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that 40-foot replica for a second. Obviously, it's only in the background during the performance.
Like when
you're
like
parade sequence or whatever.
The wide shots when he's just
Yeah.
like standing there in the cage. And I think there's a shot of it moving one time.
There's a couple of shots of it like moving its arms. I mean, you can tell
it looks bad.
You can tell it looks bad, and it's got like the eyes are just pure like wide, and there's a good reason that they didn't include it more than they did.
I don't think the effects in this movie quite hold a candle to the original either. I don't think they're bad.
They're not bad.
There are some rough rear projection shots.
There's a lot
toward
of
the end of the movie we can talk about.
matting and stuff that
The matting is overall not bad though. I mean, it's not. Clearly, this is a different medium than stop motion.
Yeah.
This is more modern visual effects, I guess.
Yeah.
Not computer, not as computer heavy as it is
Yeah.
nowadays, but a little more upgraded than stop motion.
Yeah.
I don't think the matting is horrible.
It's not for most of the movie. It does. The stuff on the World Trade Centers does start to kind of look rough.
Yeah, there's some shots of obviously Kong picking up Jessica Lange and holding her that look pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, you can so sometimes occasionally you get a or I say maybe a little more than occasionally you get the outline around her.
I was actually
But for 1976, it's pretty good.
I was pretty impressed with the scene where she's like beating on his nose.
That's pretty. That's pretty good.
Obviously, they built a life-size hand to pick her up. They built a life-size foot, and they actually built a prop for her to, for the forward-facing shot. They built a prop for her to pound on, and then on the the side angle, they matted it together. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I will say, because they filmed a lot of this Skull Island stuff on location in Hawaii. When you cut to sets, it feels
very abrupt.
It's kind of jarring because
you can
obviously
clearly tell
is a
that
set.
it's a large matte painting in the very background with random what are clearly set objects, props and stuff around them. It is kind of jarring, but I will say the matte painting of the wall and stuff when they first get there is really good.
Yeah, the matte painting of the walls
and the way that they're matted on it looks really good too.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad at all. So yeah, I mean props there. I mean overall, I agree. The effects are pretty good.
They're pretty good. I think where it gets really rough to me, it's probably the worst shots in the entire movie are the rear projection shots of Kong standing in front of the projected helicopters at the end of the movie. Yeah. I think it looks pretty bad.
That looks pretty bad, yeah.
He's it's his head, and there's very clearly a screen playing images of helicopters flying around behind him.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah, that looks pretty bad. I think a lot of, there's several things on the World Trade Center that kind of look rough, but yeah, that's probably the worst visual scene I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah. Score. So John Barry here. I actually kind of like his score.
I like it.
I like it.
It's kind of foreboding.
Yeah.
And grand, and I like it.
I like it. I think it works.
Pretty good.
Works
Works
pretty
well. Final thoughts?
Why not?
Andrew, would you like to start?
Well, this movie is not that bad. I enjoy this movie. Has some pacing issues when they're on the island, for sure, but all in all, it's not a bad movie. The acting it's not bad. Jessica Lange gets on my nerves a little bit through some of this movie.
But she's pretty, so it's okay.
Yeah.
She's pretty, yeah. But I think she gets better as the movie progresses along the story.
Yeah.
And most effects in this movie look pretty good. Some of the, matting and stuff like that on the World Trade Centers, like y'all said and stuff, look a little iffy. But, happens.
Yeah, it is.
And I like the score. John Barry did a pretty good job making a pretty good score for this movie. And Kong, he looks cool. I like his suit, the suit they made for him. I think I'm gonna give this movie a B-.
A B-. Dylan, what do you think?
Overall, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's pretty good, actually. It does have a lot of pacing issues to me. I think that the sequences, I think that hour 40-ish mark really does work for this Kong movie. I'm interested to see how Peter Jackson's plays out being 3 hours long. So, because I really do think that this story that they're telling is very similar to the original, with some minor updates and changes and switcheroos here or there to bring it into the modern era. But for the most part, it's the same story, just told in an extended manner that I don't necessarily think quite works for this. The extended sequences on Skull Island, where we spend 40-50 minutes or so on Skull Island, close to an hour, but we don't have the interactions of these people being chased around by dinosaurs, or a large extended portions of Kong running around on the island chasing after them. We don't have the really cool sequence of him, rampaging through the village. He kind of just tears down the wall and then falls into the pit, and then we're on the boat.
Tear down this wall. Sorry.
I gotta go. Anyway, I think that's probably the portion that drags the most for me is the extended sequences on Skull Island. That first movie, I feel like the original is the pacing of it is very well done. We get to the island. We have these fun interactions with the monsters. Kong fights multiple monsters, which is fun. We have that rampage sequence, and then we cut to New York, and it pretty much just continues from there. This movie, like I said, it drags during this middle section. The fight with the snake it's all right, and the interactions between him and Jessica Lange are interesting. Yeah. I think that the effects on Skull Island are where this movie probably stands out the most, because once we get back to New York, I think that they start to suffer a little bit, probably nearing the end of their production budget. Yeah. They're trying to stretch the dollar as far as it'll go, and coming up with more if they can. So I think the effects during the sequences on Skull Island look pretty good, minus the like you said, the jarring sequences where we go from live shots of them,
beautiful
Hawaii being filmed on location, to cut it to a matte painting and a set.
Yeah, a dark, dingy set.
But once we get back on the boat, it is what it is, and then we get back to New York. The Rampage, it's all right. It plays out similarly to the original. He kind of strolls about New York, takes out a train, gets a girl, climbs a tower, and then gets killed. The interactions in these sequences I don't think are necessarily great. I kind of think that this whole interaction between Dwan and Jack as they're in this bar is kind of odd to me.
Yeah.
But then we get up to the top of the World Trade Center. I think that Jessica Lange, this, like you said, probably the best part of her performance is her and Kong at the end of this film, where you can really see the emotion in her face, where she doesn't want Kong to die. Yeah. Which is pretty good. But then Kong just kind of dies. Yeah. And I think the effects in this sequence are a little rough. Like when he's climbing the World Trade Center, looks a little sketchy. And I really think that the rear projection shots of the helicopters flying behind him look pretty bad. But overall, I don't think it's bad. I think it's pretty good. I really like the look of Kong. I think that they did a really good job creating the suit, despite what Rick Baker thinks that this was a horrible suit. I think it's actually pretty good. It's much better than the suit from King Kong Escapes.
Yeah, well, yeah. They had a lot more money to work with.
But I think that a lot of the credit probably does go to the cinematographer. I think that this movie is filmed really well. He did a really good job creating this large, grand size and scope of just everything and the feel of the island and Kong in general. Rick Baker's performance as Kong, I think, is fantastic, since most of it is his eyes that you're seeing.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job creating these different masks to have fantastic expressions on Kong's face. And I think John Barry's score, it works really well for the movie. It's pretty. It's, like you said, kind of foreboding and dark at times. It works. Overall, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's pretty good. It doesn't hold a candle to the original, but it's still enjoyable. A little long at times. I'll give it... I think I'm with Andrew. I think I'm going to give it a B-. I think that's fair.
Yeah, like I said, this movie does have a bit of nostalgia for me. It is one of the, if not the earliest giant monster movie that I watched. It might be the movie that got me started on this path, for better or worse. Dylan's like, I hate this movie now. F. No, but I do like the fact that, like I said, I like the fact that they did a modern update on the movie, retelling. I think they did a pretty good job with that. The big major new story beat that they add, I think, is the fact that Dwan develops feelings for Kong, and I think that's the right way to go with that story, with that subplot. And I think that they pull it off okay. I think Dwan's
better than hearing her scream for 25 minutes.
Yeah, for the whole movie. And like Jessica Lange, like I said, she does kind of get on my nerves, especially in the first half of the movie. I think once she's captured by Kong, and then especially like you said at the end of the movie, I think her performance gets better. Jeff Bridges, they don't really ask him to do much. He just kind of here. I do like Charles Grodin's performance as Fred Wilson. He's very good at being the greedy oil tycoon, I think.
Yeah.
And Rick Baker, probably the best performance in the movie as Kong. And like you said, I think the suit, especially in comparison to some of these other movies we watched, suit looks pretty good. No complaints from me. And the effects, for a movie made in 1976, I honestly can't complain. I mean, yeah, it looks dated now, especially sometimes more than others, but I think the cinematographer did a great job. There's a lot of beautiful shots of Hawaii. I think the cinematographer did a lot of good, worked with the angles and the lighting and everything to, make the most out of this Kong suit. Am I disappointed in some of the pacing issues? Yeah, some of the lack of other monsters for Kong to fight. You can't have a Kong movie where he doesn't fight a giant reptile of some sort. I mean, come on. It's like a must-have. But I guess the snake is a reptile technically. Yeah. But a giant,
usually a T-Rex of some sort.
T-Rex or something, or a Godzilla. The snake is really disappointing. It's just like a rubber snake that he tears up. It gets tangled in accidentally. If this movie was like an hour 40, hour 45, I think it would be quite a bit more enjoyable. But as it is, it works. It works as a remake of Kong. I think I'm actually on the same page as you guys. I think I'm going to give it a B- as well. So B- is across the board, which is the same grade I gave King Kong Escapes. Personally speaking, if I had to pick one to watch and you were holding a knife to my throat, I would probably rather go with King Kong Escapes. One, because it's like 40 minutes shorter, and two, because I just like that kind of movie. But I enjoy that kind of campy movie. But no, I mean, this is a fine remake of Kong. It could will definitely be much worse.
Why do you hate me?
Oh man, I just can't wait for you to watch King Kong Lives. That movie is insane.
Oh yeah, it is.
Is there a Mechanic Kong?
No, he's got a... You just gotta watch it.
I mean, I'm gonna.
You just gotta watch it. But in the meantime... There's only one bit of news I saw come across my Twitter feed today I wanted to mention. In the upcoming season of Mystery Science Theater 3000, they are going to do Gamer vs. Jiger, which, they've done several Gamer movies in the past. Honestly, I don't think I've watched any of the MST3K versions of those movies. If we should go back. Someone emailed us and asked if we were to review a couple of them. Maybe, eventually. Maybe it's like a bonus episode or something. But anyway, I just thought I would throw that out there. Other than that, we are recording this review about exactly a week early. So sorry if we missed out on any late breaking news. But yeah, we're gonna be on the beach next week, and so I wanted to get this recorded early.
Stepping on the beach.
Stepping on the beach. Stepping on the beach. Anyway,
sorry.
There's our SpongeBob reference for the day. But other than that, let's see. I think when you hear us next, we'll be talking about Rampage.
Are we? Is that what's next?
Yeah. Yay.
Yay.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Hey, you can't go wrong with The
A
Rock.
video game adaptation.
Dwayne.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh, nice.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
And
he
then-
fights. He is a giant monkey in that movie, and there's also a giant crocodile, and a giant flying wolf thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Based
and
off.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Anyway, after Rampage, we'll be watching King Kong Lives, the lesser-known sequel to this movie.
Why do you hate me?
Hey, it's got
Not Jeff Bridges in it.
not Jeff Bridges. What's her face from Terminator?
I know her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally blanking on her name.
Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton. Yes, there we go. It's got Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
She was, between Terminator films. She needed some work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then after that, we'll be doing the Clash of the Titans trilogy between the rest of the Kong movies. So,
Yeah,
I say trilogy. It's the original and then the two remakes.
Yeah. So what we got? So it'll be Clash of the Titans after King Kong Lives, Peter Jackson, Clash of the Titans 2010. I think that's when they came out.
Yep.
Kong Skull Island, and then Wrath of the Titans.
That's right.
And that's like the next 7 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, that's not a bad
6
7
weeks,
weeks.
I guess.
I mean, you better enjoy this while you can, because then we're gonna be doing the. Are we going right into Tremors after that?
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tremors is not
And enjoy
that bad.
Tremors, because after Tremors, then we're gonna do the
Trash.
Rago trilogy, and
Oh,
then we're
yeah.
gonna be doing
Trash.
Lake Placid, Anaconda.
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
But here's the thing. We have a website where you can find all the information about all the movies that we're going to watch. Andrew, what's that website?
Yeah.
No, that website is www.stompthisway.podbean.com.
That's right. We also have social medias that we occasionally update. What are those, Dylan?
Yeah, we're up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're at Stomp This Way on all those platforms. So make sure you give us a like or a follow. Be sure to tell your friends about us.
That's right. You can also contact us at our Gmail account, stompthisway1954@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Like we said, next week is going to be Rampage. But if you can't wait till next Tuesday to hear us talk about Rampage, you can listen to our other podcast, Movies Don't Create Psychos, where we will be talking about, I believe, Saw 7 on this upcoming Friday, or
I
this
think on
most
the
recent Friday or something.
Most recent Friday will be Saw 7, then Jigsaw, and then
Jigsaw,
eventually we'll review
Spiral. So keep a lookout for those. We'll finish off the Saw
And then
franchise over
I
there
am never watching a Saw movie again.
until the new one comes out.
Until the new one
Until
comes
the
out.
But yeah, like I said, Movies Don't Create Psychos. We're in the depths of the Saw franchise, wrapping that up. So check it out.
That's right. But other than that, again, Rampage next week. But as always, thank you for listening. I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in the next one.